Hi all, Brad Wright here from singlemalt.com.au, and this month we are looking at the Benromach Peat Smoke Whisky. A lot of people who profess not to like peated whiskies, I think, have been introduced to them via an Islay malt, a really big, heavy-hitting, heavy-handed peat monster with a different characteristic of peat than is used in the production of the Benromach peat smoke. Normally, an Islay peat is usually wind-swept, sea-swept, the sea salt smashing over the rocks, going up into the peat bogs, which creates a real iodine-y, salty type peat. Those medicinal sort of notes, band-aids, that sort of thing that a lot of the Islay whiskies are associated with, sort of comes from that sea influenced peat. Whereas the Benromach is actually malted using a Highland peat, which doesn't have those seaside characteristics. So by stripping away that sort of salt and iodine characteristics, you really temper the effect that the peat has. It becomes sort of less a medicinal quality sort of smoke and much more a cured meat or a smoked meat, sweeter style peat even. And the Benromach, obviously being a Speyside whiskey, has fairly sweet notes to it to start with. Added with this sort of sweeter style of peat, and it creates a much subtler effect, I think, than most people think of when they think of peat. But anyway, look, let's have a drink. It's the best way to taste it. Yeah, as you can see, first fill American oak bourbon barrels, and as you can see, the colour sort of is typical of that. So let's get it open. See what this tastes like. Pop. Give me a little glass. Now, interestingly, in the notes on this, they say they've peated it to 47 parts per million, which is actually quite a lot of peat. For instance, Lagavulin, I believe, is only 35 parts per million. Ardbeg, 50, I believe. So this would suggest that this is a big peated whiskey. Let's have a smell and a taste, and let's see. Yeah, well, that's all. There's very little sort of trace of smoke or peat here on the nose to me. Anyway, I'm just getting your typical bourbon characteristics, that vanilla, sort of honey sweetness coming through, a bit floral notes there as well. But look, I guess maybe just a tiny hint of, I'm assuming, what's to come with the peat there. But look, it's certainly on the nose is very, very subdued. Oh yeah, there it is. Certainly not what I would have assumed 47 parts per million peat is. And once again, it's a sweet peat. The palate itself is a sweet sort of strawberry, those strawberry and cream lollies I get, with a peat that's sort of reminiscent of sort of distant cigar smoke maybe, rather than and certainly no sense of that iodine medicinal quality, and no salt at all. So that makes sense. And the finish. Once again, it's just not a massive amount of smoke. It's there, but it really just kind of slightly tempers the overall sweetness of the finish. There's that, once again, there's some caramel and chocolate notes on the finish. Just a slight bit of pepper on the back of the tongue, and a slight drying sort of sensation to the mouth going on. Very nice. Look, this is not a peat that, if you read 47 ppm, it just doesn't make sense. It's a lot less than you would assume. It's very understated, and I think if you think you don't like peat, I'm really urge you to try this and have another think about it, because this, I think, is totally different characteristics than the Islay sort of peat. It's, like I said, it's much more subtle. I guess much more user friendly is a sort of term I suppose comes to mind. It's not going to blow the back of your head off when you taste it. Oh, absolutely delicious. Yeah. The more you have, the more you can taste a bit more of that peat coming through. That sort of, but like I said, it's there's no iodine sort of medicinal quality to it. It's a more a campfire smoke. In fact, that finish, yeah, you get that sort of distant campfire, that smell of a distant sort of campfire blowing through every now and then on top of everything else. So fantastic whiskey. Definitely, if you don't think you like peat, I'd urge you to give this one a try. It's definitely the right price this month at just under $90, and something totally different than I think you assume peat is, if that makes sense. Yeah, Benromach Peat smoke, fantastic. I like it. Yum. Until next month, Slam Javar. Cheers.